Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Stories for Hope podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, and in today's episode, we are going to hear from our founder, Tom Agam, about the answer he received from God when he asked, God, why don't you hear their prayer? For those of you joining us for the first time, Stories for Hope is a podcast run by Hope for Kids International, a nonprofit whose mission is to bring hope to children around the world through our 4 pillars: dignity, health, joy, and love. I could say so much about this story, but let's just jump right in and hear from Tom.
When I hear the word Uganda, I've got to admit, for the longest time, I resisted going to Africa. I thought the problems are too big. I'm just not interested. We were involved all over the world, had lots of invitations to come to Africa, but I never really felt the call and wasn't comfortable with that decision. I got an invitation from a pastor in Phoenix to come and visit a pastor's conference in Tororo, Uganda. This was back in 2003. So my first trip was November 2003. I went with the agreement, I'm coming to speak at this conference for 3 days and I'm leaving. And before I left, my board said, don't promise anything because our ministry is running in the red. We can't take on any more projects. And I agree. I went, I got to the conference center, and it was literally a former chicken coop. It was a shack where they had raised chickens and put corn, like in a corn crib. And here they were. I was so moved by what I saw. First of all, the first thing I noticed was the passion of the believers, worshiping from their hearts. The singing was like I'd never seen. But what caught my eye as I sat on the platform was the little children that were worshiping. And these are little kids that are 3, 4, 5 years old. And nobody taught them how to worship. It wasn't like we'd see at a Christmas program, you get up as a little child and say your piece. They were crying. I saw kids on their knees and weeping. I was so moved. And as I looked at those kids, I saw how sick they were. There were open sores from HIV/AIDS. There were bloated bellies from malnutrition and worms. I mean, it was awful. By the time I got up to speak, I felt like, what do I have to say to these people of great faith and such joy? And that night, I went back to my hotel and literally got on my knees by my bed and said, where are you, God? These are people in need, and I don't see your love for them. They're dying, they're sick, they love you so much. They love you more than I could ever love you. And I said, God, why don't you hear their prayers? And I sensed God saying, that's why I brought you here, to be the answer to their prayers. And again, I said, how can I? We don't have any money. We have nothing to give. And I had this sense that it was going to take an army of people. Many people would come with me and bear this burden and be able to respond to this. Well, I was broken, needless to say. I felt like, yes, God does love them, and we are his hands and feet. And if we don't respond, they're going to continue in their prayer and nothing's going to happen. So the next day I went back and told the pastors at this conference, I said, I can't promise anything because I can't imagine when I could ever come back. It might be 5 years from now. But I said, one of the things that I've heard is these children will break their lives of poverty through education. That education will break the cycle of poverty. And I said, I want to know the names of 100 of your most desperate kids. And let's take their picture. And I want to go home and see if I can find sponsors. And I don't know if we can find sponsors. And again, no promises. And so I went back home. And I told my board, I said, we got to respond to this. And a couple of my board members said, no, we'll go further in debt. We'll be $50,000 in debt if we take this on, that sort of thing. And I said, I just feel like we have to do it. And there was this one board member, a beautiful Catholic lady, Marilyn, and she said, well, if that's what God told you to do, then we're going to do it. And that was the change. I went to Montana, spoke at a little church, Bible church in Great Falls, Montana, and out of the 100 kids that I had, I think nearly 50 were sponsored that Sunday. The following weekend, which was Thanksgiving, I was in Benicia, California. There, the rest of the kids were sponsored. Well, I'd never seen a response like this before. I'm saying, now we're doing what God wants us to do. Since that time, I've seen the impact that our sponsored kids, we have over 2,500 kids in Uganda that are sponsored. And we've been doing it long enough now, 17 years, to have seen the impact that has made. Kids who are desperate, and now they're on their way to succeeding. We've had doctors, lawyers, nurses, teachers, pastors, kids from all walks of life that would have been completely lost. So, reflecting on the beginning in November 2003, where I was overwhelmed by the need, now an army of people, not just an incredible staff here, but an incredible staff in Uganda that are working every day, that are bringing change to lives, that are saving lives daily. This is so far beyond of anything I could dream. And I have to say, it's because of the hand of God, some incredibly generous donors, and most of those donors have traveled with us. Because virtually we can take you there to give you a little glimpse, but if you go, it is a life changer. You'll never be the same, and that's good. I don't want to be able to rest. So when I look back 17 years and go, if I wouldn't have met Uganda, I wouldn't be the same.
Thank you, Tom. You know, we as humans, we don't know everything. We don't have all the answers. Sometimes situations come up and we have no idea what to do. Just as Tom experienced when he was in Uganda, the organization had no money, he had no idea how he could help, but God doesn't ask us to have all the answers. He just asks us to love others and to be his hands and feet. We are the hands and feet of God. We are asked to go into this world and love others as he loves us. John 15:12-13 says, "My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends." How beautiful is it that God asks us to love others, that all we need to do is stand up and start moving, respond to the need, respond to the cries for help, and God will work through you. God will work through you. There are so many ways that we can respond. Every day you come across people, you interact with people, and there is opportunity to love someone. I challenge you to start noticing those opportunities and to take action. Together, all of us can spread God's love around the world. At Hope for Kids International, we are responding to needs around the world every day through our programs. If you want to learn more about how you can get involved, maybe join us on a trip to Uganda, maybe sponsor a child, I invite you to get connected with us by going to H4KI.org. Thanks so much for listening. Have a blessed day.